Hello friends! Today we are going to talk about the books that I got in December. Hello everyone, and welcome back for those who may have happened to see my first video, and for anyone else who is new, the majority of you I'm sure, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie. My book channel is called Books by and By, and today I'm super excited because I'm actually going to delve into the books that I got for the month of December. So for the month of December I hauled 19 books. This is including Christmas books that I got as, gifts. A lot of ones that I've got for myself. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the list. The first book that I want to talk about is actually one that I bought full price at Target. It's a book that I'd wanted to get my hands on for some time, ever since it was released. And I did try to find it secondhand and I couldn't locate it. So I just went ahead and bought it at Target when I saw it. And that book is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. House of Earth and Blood. I actually read my first Sarah J. Maas book this year. Of course, you hear a lot about Sarah J. Maas. She's hugely popular in the YA world, and she is known for her supernatural romances, I believe. And so the series that I first picked up, of course, was A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I quickly blew through the 4 books if you count the little novella, A Court of Frost and Starlight. So there are 4 books total, and I blew through them in mostly the month of November, so actually pretty recently. And I knew this was her first adult book. Like I said, a lot of hers are YA, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love a good YA novel, but again, this is adult, so I'm curious to see what the differences will be if her writing is any different, because to be honest, a lot of her YA reads adult. So I'm just going to open this up and kind of read the sleeve, because I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly what it's about. So let's do that together. Bound by blood, tempted by desire, unleashed by destiny. Bryce Quinlan had the perfect life, working hard all day and partying all night, until a demon murdered her closest friends, leaving her bereft, wounded, and alone. When the accused is behind bars but the crimes start up again, Bryce finds herself at the heart of the investigation. She'll do whatever it takes to avenge their deaths. It goes further. I don't like to read the entire premise, just because I don't want to be spoiled of anything. I want to be surprised as I read along. So that being said, I am super excited to dive into this. I don't know when I'm going to dive into it. I know that the companion, or the next book in this series for ACOTAR, is coming out in February. So I may read that first and then dive into this big boy here, this nice thick book. So we'll see, but I am excited to read it. The next book I have on my list is a thriller book, and I did get this thrifted. This book I got from Book Outlet, which I love to use when I can. They have some newer releases that you can find for cheaper prices, and so I always try to stockpile kind of a larger order with them when I can, to save on shipping. I think it's if you spend $35 or more, you get free shipping. And so this book was recommended by one of my favorite booktubers, Books and Lala, Kayla. I'm sure all of you have heard of her. This was one of her thrillers that she said she did not see the twist coming in the end, and if anybody could figure out the twist, then they were magic. And so it intrigued me because I love a good thriller, and so I picked this book up. It is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. In this book, because I have actually just recently finished reading it, and if you see me looking over here, it's because the viewfinder's there. I'm trying to get used to looking at the camera. Nonetheless, I actually just finished reading this not too long ago, and I liked it. We follow Louise, who is a single mom living in England somewhere. I can't remember the specifics, but she's a single mom, and it opens with her out having a night on the town, which she normally doesn't do. She kind of has this little fling, if you will, with a man that she meets at the bar, and they kiss, and things are, she's having a good time. She's finally letting go, right? Because she's a mom, she's a single mom, and she doesn't get a lot of time for herself. So she had this like exhilarating night they just kissed, and then he said, you know, I shouldn't be doing this, and it was kind of left at that. So she goes on with her life. She gets ready, she goes to work Monday morning, and her new boss, David, happens to be the man that she was kissing. And lo and behold, he is married. We follow Louise as she is dealing with the drama that ensues, and it gets even more interesting because she befriends his wife, Adele. And Adele is my favorite character in this book. She's just, I just love her. And I don't want to say why because it may give away some of the plot points. But this is a ride, guys. This is so much fun to read about, and there are a few twists in here that I didn't see coming like towards the end of the book, but then there is one final twist, and it got me just as I had expected or had hoped. It got me. It got me, and it was good. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Would recommend if you love thrillers. The next book I want to talk about, also from bookoutlet.com, is Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. I picked this book up because it just seemed like a cozy little mystery, and by cozy mystery I mean not so as like intense as a thriller would be. So it's just like a mystery. I mean, this takes place at, I believe, her grandmother's restaurant. You know what, just let me read the back just a little bit just to give you an idea. It says, nestled in the mountain shadows of Alabama lies the little town of Wicklow. It is here that Anna Kate has returned to bury her beloved Granny Z, the owner of the Blackbird Cafe. It was supposed to be a quick trip to close the cafe and settle her grandmother's estate, but despite her best intentions to avoid forming ties or even getting to know her father's side of the family, Anna Kate finds herself inexplicably drawn to the quirky southern town her mother ran away from so many years ago, and the mysterious blackbird pie everybody can't stop talking about. So it doesn't sound super duper intense, and I love that. If I just want to have a cozy little mysterious read like on a rainy weekend or snowy weekend, I feel like this would be perfect. So I am excited to read this in the future. Okay, the next book I have is also from bookoutlet.com, and this is a sci-fi book. I've recently found that I like sci-fi a lot more than I thought that I did. As a matter of fact, my top rated book for last year happened to be a sci-fi, and that was Blake Crouch, Dark Matter. I loved it. I will be rereading it this year. 5-star, top book of the year, hands down for me. So I wanted to venture out into some more sci-fi. And this book, Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor, is a sci-fi. I don't know, it's not on the same, certainly not the same type of sci-fi that Dark Matter was. I think that this book will be more lighthearted and just a fun time. In this book we follow Una, who is about to turn 19. I believe her birthday is on New Year's Eve, and as the countdown starts, she faints, and I guess she wakes up about 35 years later. She is 35-year-old her. But she doesn't remember anything else. And then she keeps, from what I understand, she keeps falling asleep or fainting and coming back at different points in her life. So she's experiencing her life out of order. So I just think this sounds cool. I think it sounds neat. What a concept. Like, I just picture myself as teenage me fainting and then waking up, and I'm 35-year-old me, married with 2 kids. Or like I imagine myself popping into the future and like I'm an old lady. It's interesting. It's an interesting premise. I'm curious to see how they do it, how she does it. And it's also kind of cute that this takes place on New Year's Eve with the year ending and New Year's Eve impending. So actually maybe I'll pick this up sooner than I anticipated. Maybe this will be a New Year's read for me, but I will keep you all posted. I am excited to read this, and I will let you know how it goes. Keeping with my book outlet order, the next book I have here is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is a romance, and I believe this book is about 2 people, teenagers I think, or young adults who belong to families that own opposing or competing restaurants in the same area. And it is kind of about this little war back and forth on social media that they get into, trying to promote one's restaurant over the other, and in the process they fall in love. So at least that's what I'm assuming. This is a romance, so it's gotta go that way, right? And I'm excited to read it and let you know my thoughts. Okay, the next book that I want to talk about I'm super excited about because it is one that I have been on the hunt for secondhand for a while. It is a favorite of a favorite booktuber of mine, Gabby from Gabby Reads. This is one of her all-time favorite books, I believe, and it is The Humans by Matt Haig. I have not yet read anything from Matt Haig, and I know he released a new book recently called Midnight Library that I also want to get my hands on. But I wanted to start here because Gabby loved this book, and I feel like I will too. The premise is quite interesting. I'm going to read it from Goodreads, just like a brief snippet. Our hero, Professor Andrew Martin, is dead before the book even begins. As it turns out, though, he wasn't a very nice man, as the alien imposter who now occupies his body discovers. Sent to Earth to destroy evidence that Andrew has solved a major mathematical problem. The alien soon finds himself learning more about the professor, his family, and the humans than he ever expected. When he begins to fall for his own wife and son, who have no idea he's not the real Andrew, the alien must choose between completing his mission and returning home, or finding a new home right here on Earth. So this sounds very unique and interesting, and I'm excited to hop in and see what it is and see what all the hype is about and see if I enjoy it as much as Gabby. Okay, so that's all the books that I got from bookoutlet.com. Now I'm going to move into another favorite of mine, thriftbooks.com. I love them. I'll link them below. If you haven't heard of them, please go check it out. It's just wonderful that you can buy books of any condition, any type, as long as it is available. It will ship from all over the United States, and they are very, very reasonable. Keep in mind you are getting secondhand books, so be careful that you're checking what condition the books are in before you order them, because it is listed on the site for you to check. So one of the books that I got from Thrift Books was An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. Now, I know that I am late to this. I realized that the last book in this series was just released, but I have not read any of these books, and another one of my favorite booktubers, This Story Ain't Over, Jenny, she loves these books. I watched her cry as she did a reading vlog for the last one, and it just made me want to read the entire series. So I have the first installment. This is a YA fantasy novel. It may be a supernatural romance involved in there too. May just be fantasy, but I know there's some romance in here as well. So excited to read this, excited to see how it goes. Okay, the next book that I got, also from Thrift Books, is a book that was recommended by another booktuber. And when I say it was recommended by them, it wasn't personally recommended to me. It's just one that they love and harp about, and so it made me want to pick it up. This book is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. Now, this series is a little out of my comfort zone, and when I say that, I do like YA fantasy. Adult fantasy, high fantasy, if you will, is I think a little out of my comfort zone, but I would love to delve in and try it. Now, I know that there was a trilogy prior to this. I think it's the Farseer trilogy that Robin Hobb also wrote, and that kind of comes first chronologically. The Farseer trilogy, I have heard, is a little bit more dry and harder to get into, so that this might be a better entry point for me. I'm still tossing back and forth between the Farseer and this, but I want to dip my toes into Robin Hobb one way or the other. And by the way, the booktuber that just loves this is Reagan from Peruse Project. Love her. If you are looking for super intellectual reviews on high fantasy and even some others as well, YA fantasy, you should definitely go check out her channel because she's fantastic. Okay, the next two books are also from thriftbooks.com, and I say the next two because they go together. So these books were also, you might notice the theme. I take a lot of recommendations from my favorite booktubers, and so these are no exception. This is from Riley and Meg. I will link both their channels down below. They are also wonderful, and they loved these books, both of them, so I thought I have to give it a try. The first book in this trilogy, I believe, is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. Sorry if it's a little shiny. This was an ex-library binding. So, all right, in this book, my understanding of this is that we are following the offspring of some of the classic characters. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think we are following one of their offspring in here, and I believe we are following them as they go and solve some mysteries of their own. And I believe we also follow the daughter or son of Sherlock Holmes. What really struck me about this is how the two of them talked about the dialogue and the way that this book is written. This and the next book, which I'll show you in a second. I'm excited to experience the way that it's written and what they loved so much about it. I love a good mystery. I love a good retelling too. I don't know if it's exactly a retelling, but we're following some of the classic characters from literature. We're following their offspring, which sounds like a lot of fun. So The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter is the first book in this series by Theodore Goss again. And the second book, which is quite the beefy book, is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman. This is the second book in the series. I think that there are 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe the third one is like a novella or something, like a smaller book that is like a companion to these. But I have these 2 to pick up and start reading, and I will let you know how it goes. In addition to thrifting as many books as I can find, I do have one book subscription that I get monthly, and that is Book of the Month. For me, it's worth the money. Their selections are generally pretty good, and I can usually find at least one book from the lot that I'm interested in getting. It is a hardcover book for $15. You can't go wrong. So the first book that I picked from their selection for the month of December was This Close to Okay by Lisa Cross Smith. And I actually did read this. This is a contemporary, I think it's an adult contemporary fiction. This is definitely a genre that I do not read very much of, and I'm still trying to find out if it's something that I generally like or if it's just not for me. I thought this book was okay. I think I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5. There were some things in here that I just found to be a little bit unbelievable. The opening of this book, we find one of our main characters, Emmett, on a bridge about to jump off. We don't know why, we don't know what he has suffered, but he is about to end his life. And then Tally discovers him on the bridge. She is an off-duty therapist who just happens to be driving by and sees someone standing on the bridge. And so she takes it upon herself to pull over and let him know, you are not alone, you are loved, please don't do this. And he accepts her kindness, and she takes him for coffee, and things just kind of go from there. It's a story about them getting to know one another, her trying to help him through some things that he clearly needs to work through, and in turn she ends up kind of being able to get through some of the things that she's dealing with in her life. So that part of it was very interesting. Like I said, I did enjoy this overall. I just don't think contemporary fiction is my bag, but like I said, 3 out of 5 if you like contemporary fiction, and you like a story about raw emotions and how to work through those things, then this is a good read for you. Okay, my next book of the month pick is a thriller. I love me a good thriller, and generally when they have a thriller option, I do end up getting at least that one. Sometimes I'll get a second book. So this month I did end up getting 2, and the second book I picked up was The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This is a retelling of Jane Eyre, which I have not read Jane Eyre. So this is going to be interesting for me to, this is my first take on the story of Jane Eyre. I'm very curious to read this. This also happens to be the book club pick for Gabby Reads. She just started a new thriller book club, and it is called The Book Troop. And so this is her first read. This is her January read. So I have saved it. I do plan on reading it in the month of January, just to follow along with her book club. And I think she's going to do a live discussion towards the end of the month in January. So I'm excited to read this. I don't know anything about it other than it is similar to a Jane Eyre retelling, and I'm excited to see what happens. Okay, so the next 4 books on my list happen to be ones that I got for Christmas gifts. I'm going to start with The Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I got this from my brother and sister-in-law. Thank you guys very much. This is a YA fantasy that, funnily enough, I just finished up last night. And I have thoughts about this. I'm not going to go into the details here because I feel like that's more for a wrap-up, maybe. I'll include it in my January wrap-up just because December's almost over. But this is a YA fantasy about a witch. She and her twin sister live in Sicily with her family and her grandmother. Her family owns a restaurant in Sicily, a very popular one, and they just happen to be a family of witches, or strega as they are called in here. We follow these twin sisters and we focus mainly on their nonna, or their grandmother, as she is teaching them about what it means to be a witch, how to be careful, teaching them about some of the legends that come along with being a strega, and really worrying about them and making sure that they are safe. As it would happen, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything because this, yep, I just checked to make sure, right on the inside of the dust cover it says that one of the twin sisters is murdered. Her body is found by her twin. So we're following Amelia, sorry I didn't say their names, Amelia and Vittoria. So Vittoria is murdered in the very beginning of the book, and this is a story all about how Amelia is trying to find out who did it. This is her trying to figure out who took my sister, you know, and she gets wrapped up in the vengeance. There are some summoning of demons, and it just gets very interesting. Like I said, I don't want to say too much. I enjoyed this. I loved the ending. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I like how it wrapped up, and I am certainly intrigued to read the next book. So I would recommend that you give this a shot if you like YA, supernatural, romance, fantasy. I gave this a 4 out of 5. Okay, the next book I have was also a gift from my brother and sister-in-law, and it is the only non-fiction book on my list, and that is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is a true crime novel, and it is based on one woman's journey to find the Golden State Killer. The author of this book, Michelle McNamara, sadly passed away, but the legacy she left with this book, I mean, she was just obsessed with trying to find the killer, the Golden State Killer, and the research and the time that she put into making this book happen is just amazing. And this was a book that was recommended by Liv from Olivia Reads a Latte. She loved this book. She loves true crime. I also love true crime. I'm excited to read this and see what it's about. Okay, final book from my brother and sister-in-law for Christmas is The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard. This book was also, surprise, from a booktuber recommendation. Actually, I don't know if she recommended it. She read it. Gabby read it. Gabby Reads read this book. I can't remember what her rating is on this, but I was intrigued by the premise. So I believe in this book we are following a girl who is writing a book, I think, writing a book about her encounter with a serial killer when she was a child. She encountered this man, and he, I believe, killed her family, or at least some of the family members that she had. And so this is her survival story. This is her details about, you know, everything that she went through. And I believe as she is writing or reporting or whatever she's doing about what happened to her, the killer is realizing that she is getting closer and closer to actually figuring out who he is. So I just felt like this was a very unique premise. I don't read a lot of spooky books. I like thrillers, and I think that this is a thriller, maybe leaning horror, I'm not sure. But either way, I'm excited to read this. Winterween is coming up, which is a readathon hosted by Gabby Reads and Olivia Reads a Latte. They did Summerween back in the summer. It's kind of just, you read creepy books for a week or so, and this is Winterween material. So I think I'm going to be reading this during that time. I'm excited. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, the next book I got was gifted by my wonderful husband. It was actually included in an Owl Crate box, a special one that I wanted to order specifically, or that I wanted specifically, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is an Arthurian storytelling. We are following Bree, who is trying to find out the mysterious death of her mother, I believe. I've just heard amazing, great things about this. I know that there are some dark academia vibes in here. Obviously, legends of Arthur and the Round Table, the Knights of the Round Table. I just think that this is going to be a lot of fun. It's a little thick, but I'm into it. A lot of booktubers have loved this. A lot of booktubers who I highly value their opinion have loved this. So I'm excited to read it myself, and I really wanted this gorgeous copy. Can I just like show it off for a minute? I'm gonna show her, hold on. Let me show you. This is what she looks like underneath. The dust jacket. Gorgeous spine. And then the reverse of the dust jacket is really, really pretty too. So I do not normally get book boxes. It's just not generally in my price range. But I did get this for Christmas, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to read it, and I'm excited to share with you guys my thoughts. Okay, we are dwindling down. This might be a long video, and I apologize, but we have 3 books left, and the 3 books that I have left to show you came from a secondhand store called Second Charles. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. I do go there on occasion just to browse and see if I can find anything that is on my list of books that I want to pick up. So, first book I picked up is The Creeping by Alexandra Sirowy. I think this is the closest to like a horror book that I got. This just sounds creepy, and I'm excited to see just how creepy it is. I have never been thoroughly creeped out by reading a book. But then again, maybe I just haven't read the right kind of creepy for me. So, I'm excited to read this. I keep saying I'm excited, but I really am excited to read, like, everything. This says, 11 years ago, Stella and Jeannie disappeared. Only Stella came back. Now all she wants is a summer full of Cove Days, friends, and her gorgeous crush until a fresh corpse leads Stella down a path of ancient evil and secrets. So yeah, this might be the creepy book that I'm looking for. I sure hope so. Again, I'll probably read this for Winterweed. The next book that I got from Second Charles is Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker. I have heard a lot of good things about this book as well. In the same vein as the last book I just showed, The Creeping, I believe it follows 2 sisters. Something happens, one of them is missing, one of them is still around. We are trying to figure out the mystery that lies behind that. A lot of booktubers that I enjoy watching also loved this book. So I'm not going to say that I'm excited again, but I'm excited. I'm excited to read this. Okay, guys, last and final book. If you stuck with me, thank you. Thank you, thank you. There's 19 books. That's a lot, guys. I appreciate you sitting with me and going through these. And so final book, this one I'm excited about. This I also got at Second Charles. It's a book that I had on my radar and wanted for a while. Couldn't find it secondhand because it was kind of a new release, but I really, really wanted to get my hands on it. And when I found it, first of all, it was misshelved. It wasn't even where it was supposed to be. Second of all, it was the only one that I saw there. And it was $8. And listen, when I show you what it is, you'll understand. It is Horrid by Katrina Leto. And it's not just horrid. This is a bona fide Owl Crate edition that somebody decided they didn't want. I mean, I don't know why, but thank you, because now it's mine and it's gorgeous. And so the cover art is different from the original, I believe. It is actually signed by Katrina Leto, which I did not notice until I got in the car, and I was super duper excited. Also, it has this beautiful dust jacket that is, I believe, a picture of the house where all of these creepy things take place in. So again, this is another creepy book that I will probably be reading for Winterweed. So this book, we follow Jane Robinson and her mom, and it seems to me like they kind of travel back to where they grew up in Maine, from California to Maine. And in this house, a lot of weird things start happening. I heard this is pretty weird, like it's a little bit out there, and I I'm here for. Horrified is the last book that I have to haul today. I'm very happy with what I have for the month of December. Like I said, some of these were Christmas gifts. A lot of them were just ones that I bought thrifted. And these will add to my library. I also wanted to ask anybody who's watching still at this point, if you have any suggestions of types of videos that you like to see, let me know in the comments below. That will do it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful week and will join me next time. Bye-bye.